Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Elsa Rahma. I am from TBI 1 and my ID number is T2019-6048. In this time, I would like to explain about the input hypothesis. The fourth hypothesis, the input hypothesis, which applies only to language acquisition and not to language learning, posits the process that allows second language learners to move through the predictable sequence of the equation uh, of grammatical structure predicted by the natural order hypothesis. According to the input hypothesis, second language learners require comprehensible input represented by E plus 1 to move from the current level of equation, represented by E to the next level of equation. Comprehensible input is input that contains a structure that is a little beyond the current understanding, with understanding defined as understanding of meaning rather than understanding of form of the language learner. Okay, next, the part of input hypothesis. First, number one, the input hypothesis relates to question, not learning. Number two, the we acquire by understanding a language that contains structure is it beyond our current level competence. E plus 1 is done with the help of context or extra linguistic information. The input hypothesis runs counter to our usual pedagogical approach in second and foreign language teaching. Our assumption has been that we first learn structure, then practice using them in communication, and this is how fluency develops. The input hypothesis say the opposite. It say we acquire by going for meaning first, and as a result we acquire structure. And then number 3, when communication is successful, when the input is understood and there is enough of it, E plus 1 will be provided automatically. A third part of the input hypothesis say that the input must contain E plus 1 to be useful for language acquisition, but it needs not contain only E plus 1. It says that if the acquirer understand the input and there is enough of it, E plus 1 automatically be provided. In other words, if communication is successful, E plus 1 is provided. As we will discuss there, this implies that the best input should not even attempt to deliberately aim at E plus 1. We are familiar with syllabi that try to deliberately cover E plus 1. There is a structure of the day, and usually both teacher and student feel that the aim of the lesson is to teach or practice a specific grammatical item of or structure. Once this structure is mastered, the syllabus proceed to the next one. This part of the input hypothesis implies that such a deliberate attempt to provide E plus 1 is not necessary. As we shall see later, they are respond to suspect that it might even be harmful. And then number 4, production ability emerges. It is not taught. Um, it is not taught directly. The final part of the input hypothesis state, or the last part of the input hypothesis state, that speaking fluency cannot be taught directly, rather it emerges over time. It is own. The best way, and perhaps the only way to teach speaking according to this view, it is simply to provide comprehensible input. Every early speech will come when the acquirer feel ready. The state of readiness arrive at somewhat different times for different people. However, each speech, moreover, is typically not grammatical accurate. Accuracy develop over time as a acquirer her and understand more input. Maybe this is for me. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.